Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 813. Today we're going to talk about Hot Streak. This is a new game from CMYK. It is a betting / racing game, although you won't be doing any racing, you'll be betting on a race. And as you can see, it has these little mascots, and these are pre-painted little plastic miniatures, and they come in the box here, and they have like the little display, but that's where you can pack them away. And then also, the other cards and money tokens and things like that will come in the box, and then the actual board that you race on will be here that you can pull it out, and then you can wind it up here with this little wheel there, which I'll show you. So players will be, it plays, well, technically like 3 to 9 players, I think it says, or 3 to 8, but there is a 2-player variant, which I've not tried, but yeah, and then there's also a variant for infinity players. And I'll mention those variants at the end, but mainly it's like a 3 to 8 player game, and you'll be betting on 3 races, and you'll be playing cards into like a deck that kind of manipulates and moves the racers in different ways, and then kind of taking side bets and stuff like that. Very simple game, a lot of fun. It's a little spoiler there, but let's go down to the table and we'll have a look at it, and then I will tell you what I think. Okay, here I've got the game set up. As you can see, this is rolled out like so. To roll it back in, there's these 2 little knobs on both sides of the box there that will just roll it right back up into the box. And you can see we have different little starting positions here for Queen Mum. And I forget the names of these guys, the fish guy, and then the hot dog guy, and the bear guy. And you can see a couple other things here. You've got betting tokens for each of the different characters. Here are their names. Dangle is the fish guy. Gobbler is the bear. And so these are bet tokens for each of the 4 characters. You have a side bet here, like a yes/no bet. And like I said at the beginning, you're going to be racing 3 rounds, so 3 full races. And you'll be placing bets on who's going to win and such. And then you also will have a random side bet each race. So there's a whole deck of these. We only use 3 of them. And so this one will say, will Dangle finish in the bottom 2, yes or no? So you would take a yes or no bet. Or this one, will a mascot get knocked out? Last one might be, will at least 2 mascots be fallen down at the same time? So just little weird conditions that might arise. And you've got some money here. Of course, whoever has the most money at the end wins. Every player will start with $10. And this is not actually paper. It's kind of like a linen paper sort of thing. But it's nice. It's not cheap. And then you have these decks of cards here. So you have 4 cards that will always be in every race, possibly, always possibly, for each of the different characters. So you can see this will move Dangle the fish 2 spaces and also recover them, which I'll explain in a minute. And then you're also going to basically take, based on the number of players, a certain number of these cards. These are going to get shuffled up and then laid out, and everybody's going to see what they are. So we'll just take a quick look at the rule book here, just so you can get a sense of it. So in a 3-player race, you will take 11 cards out of that deck. In a 4-player race, 10, and so on. Now, before you do that, you will deal each player 3 cards, and so they will each have a hand of 3. Then you'll take, let's say we played a 3-player game, 11 cards randomly out of this, show them face up in front of everybody here, and so everybody will get a chance to look through these and see what's in there. And as you can see, there are cards that affect the different racers. So you've got the little hot dog guy here, so he's going to move 1 and then swerve right, basically move 1 space to the right. This one will turn him around. This one will move everybody back 2 spaces. But this says you can't finish and you can't collide. So with these green cards, here's another one where instead of backwards 2, it's forwards 2. So no colliding and no finishing. And then you've got some other types of cards here. This one, for example, will move Dangle to the next star. So wherever he is on the board, he'll move to the next star. And the only other effect here is a fall down. So that will just knock them on their butts. So what's going to happen before you even start the race is everybody's going to do a round of betting. So let's say we have a 3-player game. I'm going to take, and I'm first player, I'm going to take a bet. So maybe we've looked at the cards, and I kind of see what's out there, and I'm going to bet on Gobbler. So I'm going to take the top Gobbler bets. So I'm hoping he gets at least first, but second or third isn't so bad either. Now the next thing you might take is the next player might also follow it up. But you can see that winnings go down. So the top one, and these are all kind of sized differently, which is nice. So if Gobbler wins, I'll get 10 bucks, but the second person to do it will only get 7. So everybody, we're going to go around the table and take a bet. So you might take a bet on one of the characters, or yes or no on the side bet. And then once it gets around the table, so maybe it goes me, Billy, Francesca, then Francesca will take a second bet back to Billy and back to me. So it's kind of that Snake Catan style turn order. Then once everybody's taken 2 bets, every round there's going to be 2 bets. Each player will take a card from their hand, unbeknownst to the other players, shuffle it into the new deck, face down, and then you're going to start the race. And so before you start the race, you shuffle up the deck, like so, with everybody's additional cards, so everybody kind of knows a little bit what might be in there. But then you're going to burn 3 cards off the top. So you can go 3, 2, 1, and then race, and then you start flipping cards off the top here. So this one would be, okay, move 3. So everybody's going to move 3, like this, and so on. Then the next card might be, okay, the bear recovers and moves 2. Well, there's nothing to recover from in this case, so he's just going to move 2, and so on. So what's going to happen is somebody's going to finish first, and you're going to put them at the top of the podium, at the top of the box in the first spot. Second person to finish, second, third, and fourth, and so on. And then you're going to pay out based on where they end up. So if I chose Gobbler and he got first, I get $10, 7, or 5. Nothing for fourth place. Now, one thing I could have done when I take this bet is I could flip it over and make it a risky bet. So this means the payout here of first place would go up 15 versus 10. But you see 7 and 5 for second and third. It's 5 and 2. So these go down. Your winnings will go up, but these will go down. And then with the yes and no's, if I said yes, but I wanted to make it a risky bet, I could flip it over and I'd win more. 15 is more than 10, but you actually can lose $5 if you flip a side bet to a yes, no, and make it risky. Now, a couple things to note is we saw there were swerves where somebody might move a spot and then, you know, swerve left or swerve right. They might turn around. They might get a knockdown. So maybe there's a knockdown there and that kind of thing. So if they ever are knocked down twice, then they will go to whatever the last position is there. So whatever the first available last position. So let's say Hot Dog got knocked down twice, he'd be in last. If they ever move off of the track, then they will again go into whatever is available last. If you make it through the deck and the race is not determined, you're going to start folding the board in like this to each line as you go. And so if you ever get caught by that, the track kind of eats you. Basically, you go out of bounds in that case, and then again you go to the whatever the first available lowest place is. The characters can knock each other down. So if this one's here like this and I move up and I get in the same spot, that will knock her down. So if she gets knocked down again, of course, like I said, she'll get knocked out of the race. If you ever turn around and walk off the back, you'll be out of the race, and so on. Now, it is worth noting, while you are knocked down, you can have a recovery card. So here's Queen Mum, she's knocked down. If you recover, you will recover, and that goes for either facing backwards or being knocked down, or both. So if you're facing backwards and knocked down, you'll stand up, face forward, and then you will do the rest, then move 2. So then she would move 2 like so. And it's again just a reminder, the green cards, like so, this is a move 2, but you can never finish the race. You can never cross the finish line with a green card, and there's no colliding. So if something makes you sort of collide, then it won't happen with a green card. And then remember, like I said, if you get a star card, then you would move to the next star. So for the case of Gobbler and Queen Mum, we'd move to the next star, which would be right here at the finish line. But Dangle would only move 1 space because that's the next star in front of him. And that's pretty much it. You play 3 rounds of it. Every round, you're going to deal out one of the cards from that initial deck that you make to each player. So you're always going to have 3 cards and be putting a new one in. So you're not going to really know quite exactly what's in there. But again, you have a sense of it, and you'll have information from the previous rounds of who came in first and so on. So you have some idea of like how the deck kind of treats the different characters and things like that. Now it's worth noting, on the last round, there's only one slight wrinkle. So let's say I took 2 bets like this. And I said, okay, I'm going to do this one. And maybe I made the yes, no, or risky bet when I took it. So now I've got 2 bets. On the third and final round, I can put one on top and the other's on the bottom, however you want to arrange that. That bet will pay out double in the final round. And that also goes for the negative too. So if I put this one on top here, If I get it, that's 30, but if I lose it, it's minus 10. Whereas if I did this, the payout would be 20, 14, or 12 if it pays out. So in the last round, one of your bets is going to be doubled up there. And that's pretty much the game. The only other interesting thing in the back here is based on the exact dollar amount of money that you won, you read a little narrative passage there, which are all just kind of funny. And like I said, there is a 2-player variant where you basically put 2 cards in. It just changes the deck a little bit. It's pretty much like playing the regular game. If you're playing 9 or more players, you won't have the betting cards. You'll just write down on a little piece of paper like what your bet is, and then just do the payouts like that. The payouts are slightly different. But yeah, you can just play this with as many players as you want. Everybody kind of writes down their secret little bets, and then you just figure out the payouts and that way. Okay, so that is Hot Streak. We'll just jump into my pillars of review. I don't have the playtime handy, but the playtime is really quick. We're talking 20 to 30 minutes. I mean, really. And you can play it multiple times back to back, which is a lot of fun. But it's not a very long game at all, and it's as long as you want to make it, basically, because you can bet as quick as you want and run the race as quick as you want, and it can go by really quickly, or it can have some extracurricular activity, which leads me to player count. Now, I've played this at 3 players, and I've played it, I think it was 7 or 8. It was quite a few. I don't remember the exact count because there was a lot of us. And I talked about it on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I had played it at that time just with 7 or 8 players and really enjoyed it, had a great time with it. And I was like, I was really wanting to wait to play it with a lower player count before I did a review of it. And I'm happy to report that I really like it at both, a smaller player count with 3 to a larger player count with 7 or 8 or however many it was, which leads me to believe 4 or 5 is going to work fine. There's no reason it won't. The nice thing about the lower player count is you kind of, you feel like you have a sense of what's going on. And so it's a little bit more strategic or something like that in that way, because, just with the intimate quality of it, and it's not that many cards, and you kind of know what people have. And it's very cool because then you can kind of know who screwed you, because you're like, oh, I know the queen is going to do well because all these cards. And then somebody slipped in like a turnaround or a fall down or something like that they didn't. You're like, oh, I know you put that in there because you can see how they bet and stuff. So that's cool because it's, like I said, it's a little bit more like intimate in that way where you can really kind of play off each other. So that being said, my first introduction to it was with a lot of players, and that was also really fun because it's funny because again, both player counts kind of give you the illusion of control. Of like, oh, I'm doing this. This is going to help me exactly, but you don't know what's going to happen. But with a lot of players, just having the extra chaos and the extra kind of social seasoning that's going on there, it makes it just that much more fun in that regard, because there's just a lot of smack talking and cheering and hoop and hollering with the more players, and that just makes it extra fun there. And it doesn't really like take away or add or remove or anything. Anything from the gameplay in that regard. You just don't really know what's going on in that deck. You just don't. But that's kind of fun, because to me, this gets into my last pillar, which what is this game like? The funnest part of the game is flipping the cards and seeing how the characters move around and who's going to fall down, who's going to like run all the way to the finish line and then turn around and run right back. Stuff like that's going to happen. And that is equally fun in all regards. I would say the game that it reminds me the most of with that is Camel Cup. But it's a little bit more fun than that. So Camel Cup was a racing game, a betting game like this, where you had these camels that were like these weird wooden meeple shaped things where they could stack on each other easily. So if like the blue camel was stacked on top of the white camel and the white camel moved, it would carry it with it. So that was kind of a fun little twist on it. And then you could lay little like traps or stuff like that, or bonuses on the track, where if a camel hit it, it would move back a space, or if the camel hit it, it would move forward a space. And then some of the expansions and stuff, I think, messed with it a little bit more. And then you could take bets, at different times, and some of the expansions add kind of the side bet rule. And so it really reminds me of that. And it also kind of reminds me of Ready, Set, Bet in a way, because I don't remember the exact player count of Camel Cup. I think it only capped out at like 5 people, if I remember right. But you know, Ready Set Bet is one of those you could play with infinite number of people, really. I think there's rules for it. And this has a similar vibe because the app or the dice rolling or whatever was going on in Ready Set Bet, depending on how you played it, was just, you didn't know what was going to happen. So, I mean, you could have like the 12 horse get all the way out and basically almost finish, and the 1 horse just come all the way from behind. And, you know, just different things like that. And then the side bets kind of made that one interesting as well. This one's like, it's kind of like a little bit of a pared down, streamlined version of Ready Set Bet, if you will, because it just runs a lot quicker, a little bit less fiddly. There's not like a bunch of 1,000 different bets on the table. And the movement is way more interesting in this. Whereas that just like, okay, who's going to move next? Who's going to move next? Who's going to move next? This is like, are they going to turn around? Are they going to stand up? Or what's going to happen? Are they going to run into each other? So that's super fun. And then, you know, the theme of it or whatever with the mascots that are just these foolish things, it just makes it that much more fun. And then right away, it's like not a serious game. So nobody should get their feelings hurt if their horse and their whatever doesn't win, because it's just a mascot. And it's cool because you have, with this, you do have the side bet, which is interesting because that allows you to kind of play around with kind of betting on the turnaround and the fall down cards and that kind of thing. So there's still, those cards aren't just like, oh, you know, I'm messing with the turn order or the finish order. It's like, oh, I can kind of bet around that and stuff like that. And because it has that, and because it has sort of the gauge that you have of like, okay, I know what's in there. I know what's in there in the deck. And then I know as I watch people take bets around the table, like what cards they may or may not be putting in before the round starts. That's also like another little interesting dynamic there. And so one of the things, I was talking with some friends about it with Ready Set Bet, and not all of us agreed on it. And I'm not really sold on it, but I think I kind of am though. You know, because in Ready Set Bet, like in the last round, like you can have players where you're out of it a little bit, you know, you're not going to win. And so you can just like, you just kind of bet really fast because it's all like real-time betting. And, you know, I've heard of situations where people kind of feel bad about that. And they're just like, well, no, I just made the exact right math bet based on the situation because I wasn't, you know, I have to make these bets or I'm not going to win. And so everybody, you know, didn't like that. And then I've seen that too, and people do it, and people don't really care. I mean, they're like, oh yeah, obviously you made that bet because that's what you had to do. So no big deal. It was just like, oh, I was going to make that bet, but you know, I didn't realize I was doing so bad. And so having that kind of thing happen at the end, there's something about it. Like, I'm not trying to knock Ready Set Bet all of a sudden because I really do enjoy that game. But that is an interesting sort of dynamic that this has compared with that, where you have that real-time kind of frantic betting, which is where a lot of the fun is in the betting part of it. And the raise part of it is just kind of like happens and you see kind of how you went. And then they're kind of like married together, where in this case, it's like just everything's kind of flipped around a little bit. You have the pre-bet, and then, you know, you see how people bet, and so you know how they're going to mess with things. So there's that aspect of it. And then all kind of blends together when you start flipping card after card after card. So they're very like different mechanically, but they kind of play out very similar in that case. And this one's just really nice because there's no like setting up an app. There's no like having to, you know, have somebody manage the dice and move all the horses and all that stuff. And if you don't want to use the app and things like that. Although I will say with Ready Set Bet, like it's really fun to get like a tablet or phone, and if somebody's got a TV around, you can like Chromecast it or Apple share it or whatever the heck, and then, you know, that's a fun thing, and have the kind of the speakers out of the sound system of the TV or whatever. That makes it really fun. But this has like all of that chaotic energy and things like that, and it just all boxes up nicely in this nice little package, and it's just easy to get people to like look at the box and go, oh, what the heck, we're playing that now. I don't know what it is, but we're playing it. And so yeah, so it's in that kind of vein of that Camel Cup Ready Set Bet style betting game, and then just has a lot of fun, chaos, and things like that. It's a good party atmosphere. It's a good with a small player count, so it's almost like a nice little filler game in that case, which is a nice little kind of versatile thing that it does. Where like Ready Set Bet, you kind of want like a lot of players, and I think with this it's okay with a lot of players, but it's also really okay with you know, a few players. So it works in all those situations. So anyway, that's Hot Streak. Take a look at it. Thanks.